The sirens blared through the halls of the Defiant Hope as Captain James Walker gripped the edges of his command chair. Red emergency lights flashed across the bridge, illuminating the faces of his desperate crew. Through the main viewport, Earth burned. The blue jewel that humanity had called home for millions of years now bore ugly scars of orange and black where the Dominion's weapons had struck. "Shields at 12%, shouted Officer P from his station. Sweat ran down his face as his fingers danced across the controls. "We can't take another hit like that." Walker knew they were running out of time. The Defiant Hope was humanity's last surviving warship, carrying 500 civilians in its emergency holds. Among them was Dr. Mary Cooper, whose research into faster-than-light travel might be humanity's last hope for survival. If they died here, everything would be lost. "Engine room, give me everything you've got," Walker commanded through the ship's comm system. "We need to break through their blockade." "Captain, we're trying something unusual down here," Engineer Tom Reed's voice crackled back. "It's not in any manual, but if we redirect power from life support to the engines for 30 seconds, we might have enough burst speed to slip past their cruisers." That was the human way, finding solutions where none should exist. The Dominion, with their million years of technological superiority, never expected their prey to risk death by shutting down life support. They wouldn't even consider such a desperate move. "Do it," Walker ordered. He activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, brace for emergency maneuver. Life support will cut out for 30 seconds. Stay calm and remember your training." The lights dimmed across the ship as power drained from non-essential systems. Walker felt the air growing thin, but he forced himself to stay focused. Through the viewport, he could see the massive Dominion cruisers, their sleek black hulls decorated with pulsing purple energy lines. They were beautiful in their terrible perfection, the product of a civilization that had reached the pinnacle of technological achievement. "Course plotted through their formation," announced Navigator Jones, her voice strained as she conserved air. "They're not moving to intercept. I don't think they expect us to head straight for their heaviest concentration." Walker allowed himself a grim smile. The Dominion's greatest weakness was their inability to comprehend human desperation. Their strategic algorithms couldn't account for moves that their logic deemed suicidal. The ship lurched forward with sudden acceleration. Warning lights flashed as the hull creaked under the strain. Walker's vision began to blur from lack of oxygen, but he could see the Dominion ships growing larger in the viewport. They were committed now. Either their crazy gambit would work, or they would join the billions who had already died defending Earth. 15 seconds. Reed's voice wheezed through the comm. Hull temperature rising. The engines weren't designed for this kind of strain. Walker watched as the gap between two Dominion cruisers grew closer. The massive ships began to turn, finally realizing the humans' intent, but their movements were slow and predictable. They had no protocols for dealing with enemies who flew straight into their strongest formation. 10 seconds, Reed counted down. Port engine showing critical stress. The space between the Dominion ships was barely wider than the Defiant Hope. Even a slight miscalculation would turn them into a cloud of debris. Walker felt his lungs burning as the last of the oxygen thinned out. 5 seconds. The Dominion ships loomed on either side, their weapons ports glowing with charged energy. But they couldn't fire without hitting their own ships. Their perfect formation had become a weakness. Now, Walker managed to gasp as they shot through the gap. Behind them, the Dominion cruisers fired too late, their energy beams crossing the space where the Defiant Hope had been a second before. Life support hummed back online, and precious oxygen flooded the bridge. Walker gulped in deep breaths as he watched the Dominion formation growing smaller behind them. They had done it. They had escaped. "Damage report," he called out once he could speak normally again. "Port engine at 60% capacity," Reed replied. "But we're still moving. Dr. Cooper's modifications to the cooling systems kept us from burning up." She said something about the Dominion's designs being needlessly complex and that sometimes simpler is better. That was the moment Walker truly understood why the Dominion had attacked Earth. It wasn't just about claiming resources or expanding their empire. They had recognized something in humanity that terrified them. The ability to look at their perfect technology and find ways to improve it. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons or defenses, but in their ability to adapt and think differently. The next few hours were spent treating injuries and assessing their situation. Dr. Cooper came to the bridge, her gray hair disheveled but her eyes bright with energy. She carried a tablet filled with calculations and diagrams. "Captain," she said without preamble, "I need to show you something. When we diverted power to the engines, I recorded some unusual readings. The way our modified systems interacted with the Dominion's sensor grid, it shouldn't have been possible according to their laws of physics, but it happened anyway." Walker looked at her calculations, though most of it was beyond his understanding. "What are you saying, Doctor?" "I'm saying that everything we thought we knew about the Dominion's technological superiority might be wrong. They'd been advancing in a straight line for 1,000,000 years, refining the same basic principles. But there are other paths they never explored because their logic said they were impossible." Hope flickered in Walker's chest for the first time since the invasion began. "Can we use this?" Dr. Cooper's eyes gleamed. "Give me time with the engine data and access to Engineer Reed's team. We might not be able to match the Dominion's technology, but maybe we can go around it. Find ways they never imagined because they're too set in their ways to look." Walker nodded slowly. Earth was lost, at least for now. But humanity wasn't finished. They carried with them not just survivors, but the seeds of something the Dominion had never encountered before, the human drive to find solutions where none should exist. "Get started, Doctor. I want options." He turned to his communications officer. "Send out an encoded message on all frequencies. There must be other survivors out there, human or otherwise. Tell them that Earth has fallen, but humanity survives. And as long as we survive, we'll keep fighting." As the message went out into the darkness of space, the defiant hope limped away from the ruins of Earth. They were defeated but not broken, carrying with them humanity's greatest weapons: desperation, creativity, and the stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds. In the ship's crowded holds, 500 survivors huddled together, sharing stories and offering comfort. They didn't know it yet, but they carried with them the seeds of a revolution that would change the galaxy forever. The Dominion had ruled for 1,000,000 years through perfect, unchanging order. They were about to learn that perfection was no match for the chaos of human resilience. The defiant hope drifted silently between massive asteroids, its power systems running at minimum levels to avoid detection. 3 weeks had passed since their escape from Earth, and the ship had found temporary shelter in a dense asteroid field that the Dominion's large warships couldn't easily navigate. Inside the ship's main engineering bay, Dr. Mary Cooper stared at the strange readings on her screen, while Engineer Tom Reed paced behind her. "It doesn't make any sense," Reed muttered, running his hands through his messy hair. "The Dominion's engines are supposed to be perfect, 1,000,000 years of development. But these readings from our escape..." He leaned over Dr. Cooper's shoulder, pointing at the data. "Look at how our jury-rigged systems performed. We broke at least 3 of their fundamental laws of physics." Dr. Cooper nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "That's exactly it, Tom. We didn't break their laws of physics. We proved their laws are incomplete. They've been so focused on perfecting one path that they've ignored all other possibilities." Their discussion was interrupted by a soft alarm from the ship's sensors. Reed rushed to the nearest terminal, his fingers flying across the controls. "Movement detected," he reported. "But it's not Dominion. The energy signature is completely different." Captain Walker's voice came through the comm system. "All hands to battle stations. Dr. Cooper, we need you on the bridge." When Dr. Cooper arrived on the bridge, she found the crew tracking a small vessel that was weaving through the asteroid field with remarkable precision. Its design was unlike anything they'd seen before. Organic curves rather than the harsh geometric patterns of Dominion ships. "They're broadcasting a message. Officer Pete announced. Audio only, in multiple languages. One of them matches Earth's standard broadcast format. Walker nodded. Let's hear it. A gentle, melodious voice filled the bridge. To the ship hiding in the asteroids. We've been watching you. You fight the Dominion. So do we. We are the Meridians, and we offer friendship. The bridge crew exchanged glances. After the Dominion's betrayal, trust didn't come easily. But they couldn't survive alone forever. Open a channel, Walker commanded. This is Captain James Walker of the Earth ship Defiant Hope. We're cautious about new friends these days. As you should be, the voice replied. The Dominion came to us as friends too, long ago. But we saw what you did, escaping their blockade. You did something impossible, something their science said couldn't be done. We want to learn. Dr. Cooper stepped forward. Captain, their ship's design, it's completely different from Dominion technology. They might have knowledge we can use. After careful scans confirmed the alien ship carried no weapons, Walker agreed to allow a small delegation aboard. The Meridians were tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their emotions. Their leader, who called himself First Speaker, brought with him technical data about Dominion patrol routes and defense systems. We have lived under their shadow for 2,000 years, First Speaker explained as they gathered in the ship's conference room. We obey, we survive, but we do not forget what it means to be free. Your escape, it has given many species hope. The Dominion's perfect systems fail to stop you. Dr. Cooper and Reed spent hours with the Meridian engineers, exchanging ideas and comparing technologies. The Meridian's organic technology approached problems from a completely different direction than either human or Dominion science. When combined with human improvisation, it opened up entirely new possibilities. Look at this, Dr. Cooper explained to Captain Walker later, spreading diagrams across his ready room desk. The Meridians understand biological systems in ways we never imagined. Combined with our modifications to the engines, we can make the Defiant Hope faster and more maneuverable than any Dominion ship, and harder to detect, Reed added. The Meridians showed us how their organic tech naturally absorbs energy rather than reflecting it. If we adapt that principle to our hull, Walker studied the proposals. The modifications would be risky. They were basically reinventing their technology from the ground up. But that was exactly why it might work. The Dominion would never expect it, because their rigid protocols said it was impossible. Over the next few days, human and Meridian crews worked together to modify the Defiant Hope. They stripped out standard systems and replaced them with hybrid versions that combined human ingenuity, Meridian organic technology, and salvaged Dominion components. The ship became something entirely new, not just a survivor, but a prototype for a different way of thinking about space travel. The Dominion believes they have reached the peak of evolution, First Speaker observed as they watched the crew's work. They think their way is the only way forward. But life always finds new paths. Their work was put to the test sooner than expected. A Dominion patrol discovered their hiding place, sending 3 warships into the asteroid field. But this time, the Defiant Hope was ready. Power up the new engines, Walker ordered. Let's show them what impossible looks like. The hybrid engines hummed to life with a sound unlike anything human or Meridian ears had heard before. On the bridge displays, the Dominion ships appeared as bright threats, their energy weapons charging. But when they fired, their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the Defiant Hope's new organic hull coating. They can't track us properly, Officer Pete reported with amazement. Their sensors are calibrated for standard energy signatures. We don't make sense to their systems. The Defiant Hope danced through the asteroid field, its new engines allowing maneuvers that should have torn the ship apart. The Dominion ships tried to follow, their massive bulk and rigid programming unable to match the smaller ship's agility. One Dominion cruiser clipped an asteroid, its perfect shields failing against the unexpected impact. Send a message to any watching, Walker commanded as they left the defeated Dominion ships behind. Tell them that the rules have changed. Tell them that perfection can be beaten. When they were safely away, first speaker turned to the human crew. This is only the beginning, he said. There are others like us, species who remember freedom, who have preserved knowledge the Dominion thought lost. Together, we can find new ways to fight. Dr. Cooper looked at the data from their battle, her mind already racing with new possibilities. Traditional research and development took too long, she said, but rapid adaptation, combining technologies in ways they were never meant to be combined. That's something the Dominion can't copy. They've forgotten how to innovate. Reed nodded in agreement. Every defeat will teach us something new. Every victory will show us another weakness in their perfect systems, and they can't adapt as fast as we can. As the Defiant Hope traveled deeper into space, more ships began to appear, other fugitives and rebels drawn by the story of the ship that did the impossible. Each brought their own technologies, their own ways of thinking, their own impossible ideas. And with each new ally, humanity's greatest strength grew stronger. The ability to learn, to change, and to find hope in the darkest places. The revolution wouldn't be won with superior technology or overwhelming force. It would be won with creativity, adaptability, and the courage to try things that no one else believed could work. The Dominion had spent 1,000,000 years building the perfect system. Now they would learn that imperfection, backed by determination, could be even stronger. News of the Defiant Hope's victories spread through hidden channels across the galaxy. The ship that had started as humanity's last refuge had become something more, a symbol of resistance. 2 months after their encounter with the Meridians, the Defiant Hope's crew found themselves at the center of a growing rebellion. The ship's mess hall, once eerily empty, now buzzed with activity. Representatives from 12 different species gathered around tables originally designed for human crews, each bringing their own stories of survival under Dominion rule. Captain Walker stood at the front of the room, looking over the strange assembly with a mix of hope and caution. "The Dominion thinks they destroyed us when they burned Earth," he said, his voice carrying across the quiet room. "They thought we would break. Instead, we're growing stronger. Every species here has something to teach and something to learn." Near the back of the room, Dr. Cooper sat with a group of alien scientists. The crystalline luminars, their bodies glowing with inner light, shared details about their advanced sensor technology. The cave-dwelling delvers, with their natural ability to see energy flows, offered insights into power distribution that no human engineer had ever considered. "Your weapons are primitive," one of the Luminar scientists noted, their crystal form pulsing with gentle colors. "But the way you modify them, combine them with other technologies, we never imagined such things were possible." Engineer Reed, who sat nearby tinkering with a hybrid power cell, looked up with a grin. "Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When you're outgunned and outnumbered, you learn to get creative." Their discussion was interrupted by urgent calls from the bridge. The Defiant Hope's new sensor array, enhanced with luminar crystals, had detected a massive Dominion fleet approaching a peaceful farming world. The planet's only crime was trading with rebel ships. "They're going to make an example of them," first speaker said, his iridescent skin darkening with anger. "The Dominion cannot allow any sign of rebellion to spread." Walker looked around the room at the gathered species. "Then we make our own example. Show the galaxy that the Dominion isn't invincible, but will need everyone's help." What followed was unlike any battle planning session in human military history. The Delvers suggested hiding ships in the planet's magnetic field where Dominion sensors couldn't penetrate. The Luminars provided crystals that could bend light around ships, making them nearly invisible. The Meridians shared their knowledge of organic technology that could heal damaged ships during battle. Most importantly, they all learned from humanity's approach to warfare. "The Dominion expects ships to fight in standard formations," Walker explained. "They've forgotten that chaos can be a weapon. Each ship will fight its own way, using whatever advantages its unique combination of technologies provides. The rebel fleet that assembled to defend the farming world was a sight that would have confused any Dominion tactical computer. Ships of all sizes and designs, modified with mixed technologies that shouldn't work together, gathered in the shadow of the planet's magnetic field. The Defiant Hope, now bearing aspects of a dozen different species technology, led the unlikely armada. When the Dominion fleet arrived, their sensors detected nothing unusual. Their perfect formations arranged themselves according to strategies that hadn't changed in 10,000 years. They prepared to deliver their lesson about the price of defiance. The first sign that something was wrong came when their targeting systems began to fail. Ships hidden in the magnetic field emerged from impossible angles, weapons firing in ways that violated Dominion combat algorithms. The luminar crystals bent weapons fire around expected shield positions, striking at vulnerable points that should have been perfectly protected. Their formations are breaking, Officer Pete reported from his station on the Defiant Hope's bridge. They can't adapt fast enough to our different attack patterns. The Dominion fleet's perfect coordination became their weakness. Each ship relied on the others to perform exactly as expected, following programs written millennia ago. But against an enemy that changed tactics every few minutes, that used technologies in ways their creators never intended, their precision became confusion. Dr. Cooper watched the battle from her station, monitoring the performance of their hybrid systems. "Look at their power readings," she called out. "Their shields are working harder than they should have to. They can't compensate for attacks they don't understand." The battle ended not with the destruction of the rebel fleet, as Dominion tactical computers had predicted with absolute certainty, but with the retreat of the surviving Dominion ships. The farming world was saved, and more importantly, the galaxy had seen the impossible. The perfect machines could be beaten. In the days that followed, more ships arrived. Not just warships, but civilian vessels, science ships, even Dominion vessels whose crews had secretly harbored doubts about their master's perfect order. The rebel fleet grew into the Free Systems Alliance, with the Defiant Hope as its heart. "We need to teach others what we've learned," Walker announced to his now diverse crew. "Not just about fighting, but about working together, about finding new solutions. Every species has something valuable to offer." The Alliance began establishing hidden bases, schools where engineers and scientists could learn to combine technologies in new ways. The Defiant Hope's original modifications became templates for a new kind of shipbuilding, one that emphasized adaptation over perfection. The Dominion's greatest mistake, Dr. Cooper explained to a class of alien engineers, was thinking they had reached the end of development. They stopped looking for new ideas because they believed they had found all the answers. But the universe is too big, too complex for any one approach to be perfect. The Alliance's strength grew not from matching the Dominion's technology, but from embracing diversity and change. Each victory taught them new lessons, and each defeat showed them new ways to improve. While Dominion ships remained unchanged for centuries, Alliance ships evolved constantly, incorporating new ideas and discarding failed ones. "Humanity's gift to us," first speaker told his fellow Meridians, "isn't their technology or their tactics. It's their way of thinking. They taught us that being perfect isn't as important as being able to adapt." As the Defiant Hope patrolled the borders of Alliance space, its crew now a mixture of species working in harmony, Captain Walker reflected on how far they had come from those desperate moments fleeing Earth. They were no longer just survivors running from destruction. They had become teachers, innovators, proof that the galaxy needed something more than perfect order to thrive. The revolution that started with one ship's desperate escape had grown into something the Dominion had never encountered in their million years of rule. An enemy that grew stronger with every defeat, that learned and changed and refused to follow their rules of warfare. The perfect machines were about to learn that imperfection, backed by determination and creativity, could change the course of history. The discovery came late one night in the Defiant Hope's main laboratory. Dr. Cooper had been studying captured Dominion technology for months, trying to understand why their supposedly perfect systems were failing against Alliance attacks. The answer, when she finally found it, was so simple that she laughed out loud. "Captain Walker," she called through the comm system, her voice excited. "I need you in the lab right away. Bring First Speaker and the Luminar Elder. They need to see this too." When the group assembled, Dr. Cooper stood before a holographic display showing the internal workings of a Dominion shield generator. Next to it floated a similar display of an Alliance hybrid shield system, cobbled together from human, Meridian, and Luminar technology. "Look at the Dominion system," she said, pointing to the complex network of energy flows. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Perfect in every way. Every component optimized over thousands of years. But that's exactly why it's failing." Engineer Reed, who had been dozing in a corner, perked up. "What do you mean?" "Their technology is too perfect," Dr. Cooper explained. "They've optimized everything so completely that there's no room for adjustment. When we hit them with weapons they don't expect, using attack patterns their computers can't predict, their systems have no way to adapt." The Luminar Elder's crystalline form pulsed with understanding. "While our hybrid systems, imperfect as they are, can adapt to almost anything," Dr. Cooper finished, "because they're already operating outside normal parameters. We built them to be flexible because we had to. The Dominion built theirs to be perfect, and perfect things break when faced with the unexpected." Word of the discovery spread through the Alliance fleet. Ships began targeting specific weaknesses in Dominion systems, using unpredictable tactics that forced their perfect machines to operate outside their design parameters. Each victory revealed new ways to exploit the Dominion's rigid technology. The Defiant Hope, now serving as the Alliance flagship, led a series of raids that demonstrated this new understanding. They didn't try to overpower Dominion ships. Instead, they confused them. Alliance ships would appear from unexpected vectors, using hybrid drives that broke all the rules of normal space travel. They fired weapons that combined technologies in ways Dominion sensors couldn't classify. "Their ships are like boxers who've only ever fought other boxers," Walker explained to his crew. "They're trained to perfection against known techniques, but throw them up against a street fighter who breaks all the rules, and suddenly all that perfect training becomes a weakness." The Alliance's greatest victory came at the Battle of the Spiral Arm. A Dominion fleet twice the size of the Alliance forces had cornered them near a dense cluster of stars. By all normal military calculations, it should have been a slaughter. But the Alliance ships didn't fight normally. "Delver ships, dive into the star cluster," Walker commanded. "Your modified shields will hold. Luminar vessels, use your crystals to redirect the stellar radiation. Meridian ships, prepare your organic hulls to absorb energy." The Dominion fleet watched in confusion as the Alliance ships took positions that their tactical computers said were suicidal. The Defiant Hope led a charge straight toward the Dominion's center formation, its hybrid systems pushing the laws of physics in ways that made Dominion targeting computers crash and restart. "They're trying to recalibrate," Officer Pete reported from his sensor station. "Their systems can't handle all the different energy signatures we're putting out." The battle that followed would be studied for generations. Alliance ships darted between Dominion formations, their impossible maneuvers causing the perfect machines to fire on their own ships. Delver vessels emerged from the star cluster trailing solar plasma, which luminar crystals focused into improvised energy weapons. The Defiant Hope's organic hull components absorbed Dominion energy attacks and redirected them back with unpredictable modifications. "Their flagship shields are failing," Reed called out from engineering. "They can't adapt to all the different types of attacks. Their power systems are trying to optimize against too many variables at once." The Dominion fleet's perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Ships designed to work together in precise patterns found themselves unable to coordinate against an enemy that refused to follow any predictable strategy. One by one, their perfect systems overloaded and failed. In the aftermath of the battle, Dr. Cooper gathered with scientists from across the Alliance to study the captured Dominion vessels. What they found confirmed her theory. The Dominion's technology was so optimized, so perfect for fighting conventional battles, that it had lost the ability to handle unexpected situations. "They've trapped themselves," she explained to a gathering of Alliance leaders. "Their pursuit of perfection has made them vulnerable to anything that operates outside their expected parameters. And nobody operates further outside those parameters than humans and our allies." The discovery changed the way the Alliance approached the war. Instead of trying to match Dominion technology, they focused on finding new ways to combine their various technologies. Every Alliance ship became a unique experiment, carrying combinations of systems that had never been tried before. "The Dominion calls this chaos," first speaker observed as they watched Alliance engineers modifying captured Dominion technology with organic components. "They see our methods as primitive, our victories as impossible. They cannot understand that chaos is not the opposite of order. It is the source of innovation." The Alliance's ranks swelled with species who had lived under Dominion rule for generations. Many brought their own technologies, preserved in secret, waiting for a chance to fight back. Each new addition to the Alliance made their hybrid technology more unpredictable, more impossible for Dominion systems to counter. "We're not just fighting their ships," Walker told his crew after another victory. "We're fighting their entire way of thinking. They believed reaching perfection meant they could stop advancing. We're showing them that true advancement never stops." In the Defiant Hopes lab, Dr. Cooper worked with a team of scientists from 20 different species, each bringing their own perspective to the challenge of defeating the Dominion. Their projects often failed, but each failure taught them something new. Unlike the Dominion, they weren't afraid of imperfection. "The universe is too vast and complex for any system to be truly perfect," she wrote in her research logs. "The Dominion's greatest weakness isn't their technology. It's their belief that they've reached the end of innovation. They forgot that standing still means being left behind." As news of Alliance victories spread, more and more Dominion ships began to desert, their crews realizing that 1,000,000 years of perfection meant nothing against the power of adaptation and change. The perfect empire was beginning to crack, and through those cracks, hope was spreading across the galaxy. 1 year had passed since the Defiant Hope fled a burning Earth. The ship that once carried humanity's last survivors now led an armada of 10,000 vessels, each one a unique combination of technologies that the Dominion's computers classified as impossible. But the greatest changes weren't in the ships. They were in the minds of the galaxy's people. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, looking at the tactical display that showed Alliance forces pushing back Dominion fleets across dozens of sectors. But it wasn't the military victories that made him smile. It was the reports coming in from liberated worlds, telling stories of species remembering how to think for themselves again. "Another Dominion research facility has switched sides," Officer Pete reported. "Their scientists say they want to learn our methods. They're tired of just maintaining the same systems century after century." Dr. Cooper, who now led the Alliance's scientific council, spent more time teaching than researching. The Defiant Hope's cargo holds had been converted into classrooms where engineers and scientists from hundreds of species learned not just new technology, but new ways of thinking. "The Dominion taught us that advancement meant reaching perfection," she told her students. "But look at nature, look at life itself. Nothing in nature is perfect, but everything is always adapting, always changing. That's real advancement." Engineer Reed had his own classes in the engine room, teaching maintenance crews how to modify and combine technologies that were never meant to work together. His favorite lesson involved deliberately breaking systems just to show his students how to fix them in new and creative ways. "The Dominion's engineers know every part of their systems," he explained while showing a group how to combine meridian organic components with luminar crystals. "But they only know one way to use them. We know 1,000 ways, and we're inventing new ones every day." The revolution spread fastest among the young. On worlds that had lived under Dominion rule for generations, children began asking questions that their perfect machines couldn't answer. They looked at technology not as something to be mastered, but as something to be explored and reimagined. First speaker, watching alien children playing with discarded machinery in a refugee camp, understood what was happening. The Dominion thought they could control the galaxy by making everything perfect and unchanging. But they forgot that life itself depends on change, on adaptation. Humans reminded us of this truth. The Defiant Hope led a mission to liberate a Dominion manufacturing world. Instead of destroying the facilities, Alliance forces captured them intact. Inside, they found thousands of robotic workers, each one programmed to build the same perfect components in exactly the same way, forever. "Look at this," Dr. Cooper said, examining one of the robots. They could have programmed these machines to improve their designs, to experiment and innovate, but they were so afraid of imperfection that they locked them into endless repetition. The Alliance reprogrammed the factories, not to build perfect components, but to experiment with new combinations and designs. The Dominion had created these facilities to maintain their perfect order. Now they became centers of innovation, producing technologies that their original designers would have considered impossible. But the greatest blow to the Dominion came not from military defeats or lost facilities. It came from their own people. More and more of their citizens, seeing the vibrant chaos of Alliance worlds, began to question the price of perfection. Ships deserted, colonies declared independence, and even their central worlds began to show signs of change. The final battle for Earth approached. The Alliance fleet gathered near humanity's lost homeworld, led by the ship that had started it all. The Defiant Hope had changed so much that it barely resembled its original design. Like humanity itself, it had adapted and grown stronger through adversity. "We're not just fighting to reclaim Earth," Walker told the assembled fleet. "We're fighting to prove that the galaxy belongs to those who dare to change, to adapt, to try new things. The Dominion's perfect order is ending. Something new is beginning." The battle that followed wasn't just about military might. It was a clash between two fundamentally different ways of thinking. The Dominion's forces fought exactly as their protocols demanded, with perfect precision and coordination. The Alliance forces fought like life itself, messy, unpredictable, endlessly adaptable. When the Defiant Hope landed on Earth's surface, its crew found a changed world. The Dominion had tried to reshape the planet according to their ideals of perfection. But Earth, like humanity, refused to be contained. Plants grew through their perfect streets, weather eroded their perfect buildings, and in hidden places, surviving humans had kept hope alive. "They never understood," Dr. Cooper said, touching the soil of her homeworld. "Earth isn't perfect. Humanity isn't perfect. Life isn't perfect. And that's what makes us strong." The liberation of Earth marked the beginning of the Dominion's end, but not in the way anyone expected. There was no final surrender, no dramatic last battle. Instead, the perfect empire simply began to change. Its people, inspired by the Alliance's example, started questioning, experimenting, looking for new ways to do things. The Defiant Hope's original crew gathered one last time on their bridge, now joined by representatives from dozens of species who had become family over the course of their journey. "We did more than win a war," Walker said, looking at the faces around him. "We started a revolution in how people think. The Dominion tried to force the galaxy into perfect order. We showed them that real strength comes from embracing change." Across the galaxy, ships that had once been enemies worked together to rebuild. The rigid hierarchy of the Dominion gave way to a network of worlds sharing knowledge and ideas. Every species brought their own perspective, their own way of solving problems, making the whole stronger than its parts. The humans gave us something more valuable than technology. First speaker told a gathering of Alliance leaders. "They showed us that it's okay to be imperfect, to make mistakes, to try new things. They taught us that true advancement comes not from reaching perfection, but from never stopping the journey." Dr. Cooper established a new kind of university, one where being wrong was celebrated as much as being right, where students were encouraged to challenge everything they thought they knew. The Defiant Hope, the ship that had carried humanity's hope through their darkest hours, became its first campus. "We're going to make mistakes," she told the first class of students from across the galaxy. "We're going to fail sometimes. And that's exactly why we're going to succeed. Because every failure teaches us something new. Every mistake shows us a new path forward." The greatest tribute to humanity's influence wasn't in the technology they helped create or the battles they helped win. It was in the way the galaxy's people began to think differently. They learned to see imperfection not as a flaw to be corrected, but as an opportunity to grow and change. The defiant hope remained a symbol of this new way of thinking, a reminder that the greatest strength isn't in being perfect, but in being able to adapt, to learn, to keep trying new things. Humanity's resilience had done more than change the course of a war. It had changed the course of galactic civilization itself.